Welcome students, this is Coach Byrd. Welcome to another Byrd Brothers Chess video. So what we're going to do today is go over our Pirc repertoire within the first three moves. This will make your life a lot easier. So just for my students' notice, you will be having exams on your first move, which should be really easy. Your second move. The third move is where things start to become a little bit more complex, and at some point you're expected to be able to memorize 4 moves deep. Today we'll be covering 3 moves deep. Some main things to note. For the most part, you'll see what we call the mainland. So after e4, of course, we're covering e4, d6, which is the beginning of the Pirc defense. We should know it by this point. However, you do not. The e4 is the most common first move. We're going to respond with d6, and if your opponent plays d4, they control the mainland. We also refer to this as downtown, but against this, we just respond with the King Steed, and we patiently wait to eventually take control of the mainland. You typically expect your opponent to respond with what we call the Mainland Knight, and so this is very normal. This is the main line of the Pirc defense, so we just play g6, which we refer to as the King's Fianchetto. So those first 3 moves should be very easy. Now, where things start to become a little bit more complicated is when your opponent says, well, I don't want to play the Pirc line. And so in those instances, we have to use what we call the dragon. However, it comes at a cost because your opponent will be deploying, whether they know it or not, what we refer to as dragon slayers. You have the Mourner, which is bishop c4. That's an early attack. And then your opponent starts using their dragon slayers, whether it be the knight on the king's or the queen's side. This is referred to as Queen Knight Dragon Slayer. This is right here. This is the Austrian Dragon Slayer. And you also have non-dragon slayer types, which is the English, which is still quiet. And we're not going to deploy the dragon in this instance because it's too calm. There's no need. It'll be over. We will overextend ourselves. The dragon isn't as effective in this, and so we just use what we call a simple mirror. However, we'll be covering these 3 moves in depth in each variation. So let's get started, namely with the dragon, okay? All right, so as I stated before, let's go to the Mourner attack. So in all these lines, we are not deploying our knight to f6. Do not play knight f6 in these lines because your opponent wants to perhaps take advantage of our knight being misplaced on this square in a lot of these lines. Or in some very aggressive lines, they can just play e5 early, and that's very annoying. And we want to get a chance to deploy our dragon properly. So what we do is what we call a dragon's fianchetto. Dragon's fianchetto, what is that? It's when we don't play the King Steed and we substitute the dragon, which is g6 here. This is the beginning of our dragon formation. In this line, we'll be covering the King's Knight Dragon Slayer, so be aware of these attacks incoming. And we just prepared a Dragon's Den with Bishop g7. So Dragon's Fianchetto, Dragon's Den. Okay? 3 moves out of the way. Easy, okay? So just remember, against the Mourner attack, really all these attacks, you're going to be just doing 2 simple things. Dragon's Fianchetto, Dragon's Den. Alright, so does anything change? Let's see. Let's say our opponent plays the Queen's Knight Dragon Slayer. You should probably be able to guess what we do here. Yes, that's correct. The Dragon's Fianchetto. In this instance, our opponent could try a Grand Prix attack. However, we respond the same. Dragon's Den. It doesn't change. What if they, Coach, what if they use the Austrian Dragon Slayer with f4? You guessed it. Dragon's Fianchetto. Oh no, they tried to, or they have done the mainland dragon front, which is still threatening e5. We do not use the King Steed. We do not use the King Steed still. We simply use the Dragon's Den. What if they play after the Queen's Dragon Slayer? What if they Fianchetto? This is what we call the Dragon Slayer Fianchetto. That's fine. We still invite them. Bring it on. Dragon's Den. So by this point, you should just get, it's very simple. If our opponent does not acquire the mainland immediately, we resort to a dragon setup, which includes the Dragon's Fianchetto and the Dragon's Den. Okay? Alright. Now, for some exceptions, it's very rare, but we can handle it. Well, they play the English. Well, we don't play our normal Pirc move order, nor do we do the dragon here, because our opponent has a different setup. And with the way the colors of the squares are deployed from white, we just want to mirror them. And so we have the hopes of shattering their center at some point, but it depends on what they play. So we do what's called an English mirror. Just mirror what they do to a certain extent. So if they play English, we mirror with our English mirror. Now, white has a few options here. Now, the truest of the English will be just knight c3, and then I'll just tell you to, once again, mirror. We'll do a Steed mirror. Okay? Now, here's some exceptions where we do not mirror. Let's say they play the crazy bind. Really, we're headed to a Marazzi bind, but we're going to call it the crazy bind, because they're trying to like play here and like really restrict us. And so you already know what our move is by this point. It is the famous Shatter, as you will learn, or should have learned from our previous Queen's Gambit decline responses. If our opponent does not support the center with a pawn, which they can in this instance, because they've already played e4 and c4, so they can't support this pawn with a pawn. So naturally, we just play Shatter. We fractured their center, or their center pawn connection. So as you can see now, these pawns are now dislocated in terms of being united by the d4 pawn. Alright, so there's one more move, knight f3. We call this the prey, and we deploy, you'll see in various normal Pirc move order lines, we deploy the Predator Hawk. This is why a lot of time white wants to play h3 to prevent us from even getting our Predator Hawk involved. But once this Predator Hawk gets activated, it is challenging, because you already have a pan. This knight is now uncomfortable. If they play h3 to weaken their pawn structure anyways. So we are happy campers. And that's it, students. Those are your first 3 moves. Oh, wait a minute, guys. There's one more thing. There's the bishop fracture. This is not good, because we can fracture their pawn structure early. Can you guess how? It's not c5. It's not d5. And of course, we don't play g6 here. We play Serrano Strike. And so we're already challenging the center in their awkward setup. This is very passive. White's not trying to claim their tempo advantage going first. And so we take advantage of it. Like, if you don't want to fully control the mainland, we will. And also, let me just show you guys really quickly. If your opponent plays knight e2, guess what? Is there a pawn protecting this pawn? I don't see one, and so you know what that means. Shatter. So that's 4 moves, but I just want to show you guys that just in case you wanted to know where another potential to use Shatter is. Alright, so students, this will be in your homework. It's just the first 3 moves. The first 3 moves for all the Dragon Slayer lines are the same. One more time. If your opponent plays any of these, let's just use the modern attack for example. Anything that's not mainland, you're going to play Dragon's Fianchetto, Dragon's Den. Okay, I'm just going to show them to you really quickly. And your exceptions are the English, where you just mirror, unless they do a bind, but you just shatter the bind. And if they give you easy prey, well then we use our Predator Hawk. Alright, so go to your quiz in the chess learning platform. Complete this, is very easy. This should only take very much less than this video, about 5 minutes to complete, because it's so simple. Okay? Take care, guys. Coach Byrd signing out.